The storm was in full effect. Rain, wind, waves, lightning and thunder set the stage for what was about to come. The bulky ship was rocking, but the thick metal reinforcements inside made it steadfast on its path. No sign of water elementals, yet. Rain, Losian, Wetlad, and Grolohilda exchanged looks and gathered in the middle of the deck. "You know you have to keep me alive, right?" asked Rain, looking at Losian, her tone making it clear it's a rhetorical question. I know, don't you worry about me," assured her Losian. "We'll deal with the masses. Make sure you catch its attention, the best you can," added Wetlad. "Do you see me as a child that needs to be told over and over again what needs to be done, huh?" quipped Rain. "Young lady, this is a serious task. Don't take it lightly. Many lives are at stake here, not just yours," warned her Grolohilda. Rain turned towards the feisty dwarf, her face turning from playful to dead serious, and calmly asked, "Have I ever let you down, Ghost Slayer?" A few moments of silence passed before all four of them took their posts. A few minutes later, somebody screamed, "Water elementals! On the port side!" Wetlad hurried furiously towards the source of alarm, already chaining his most powerful magic. Right behind him, Grolohilda followed, bonding some of her own vitality with the weapon of choice, ready to shoot anything that dares attack the ship. They both engaged an audibly large group of water elementals trying to smash holes in the side of the ship. "I guess I should do the same then, right?" Rain told Losian as she imbued her hand crossbow with a same strain of esoteric blood magic similar to Grolohilda's. Losian nodded in approval and started chaining his usual protective magic at her. She took this time to ingest 2 elixirs from her belt, causing her whole body to violently shake and change shape. Losian averted eyes a bit. It wasn't the first time he's seen her disturbing transformation, but he still didn't like the sight of it at all. Just as the duo finished getting ready, something colossal momentarily showed itself against the background lightning, protruding from the water surface a couple hundred feet away, from the ship's starboard side. Winds and waves took over as everything turned pitch black again. Not a minute after that, the ship shook violently. Several screams were heard from the front of the ship, followed by the sounds of panic. Get in! Get in! Stay close!" roared Losian. Wasting no time, Rain hopped over the fence and graciously hurled herself into the tumultuous sea. The sounds of violent storm suddenly changed into a muffled, much quieter background noise. Rain took a few strokes, and in front of her, the underwater horror, the stuff of myths and legends, the primeval monster she still couldn't believe existed, Kraken, in all of its horrific glory. She swam up to see whether the monstrosity came to the surface. Indeed, many tentacles protruded from its immense body, some picking off crewmen from the deck, most wrapping around the hull, trying to break the ship in half. The ship creaked and squeaked all around, but its internal metallic structure held well. Dwarves did a very good job, she thought. Still, despite all its additional weight, the water titan was pulling it sideways, threatening to capsize the whole thing. Now or never, Rain thought, as she pulled her hand crossbow and started rapidly firing her magic icy bolts at the Kraken. As the immense being locked onto the ship, Rain found it quite easy to land them around its massive head. Finally, she thought, at this barrage clearly caught its attention. Kraken hurled a tentacle in her direction. The mass size and speed at which it moved made it basically unavoidable. It felt like a massive whip grazed and bruised all over her back. But before it could pull her closer to its mouth, Rain contorted her body in an extremely disturbing way and somehow wiggled out of its grasp completely. 2 more tentacles followed soon after the first one. Rain was unable to dodge the massive trunks, but she slipped out of the Kraken's grasp again. "What, you thought I was that easy to catch? Try harder, monster!" she yelled at it, keeping the barrage of magical icy crossbow bolts flying in the direction of Kraken's face, all the time. "Lucian, I need some of that magic of yours. I can only do this alone so much. I'm getting tired really fast," she yelled up at the deck, where Lucian was struggling to not fall into the water. I'm a bit preoccupied at the moment, as you can see," he yelled back, annoyed. "Keep that thing away from shaking this bloody ship so much. I can barely concentrate over here." "I'm doing my best, absolute best, friend, so stop slacking," fired back Rain, with a hint of anger in her voice. "On it," calmed her Lucian as he finally managed to get a stable footing in a bunch of snapped ropes, broken barrels, chests, buckets and planks. Right away he directed all of his healing magic towards her. The deadly dance lasted for quite a while. Aided by Lucian's life-preserving magic, Rain went toe-to-toe with the ancient being. She knew it was only a matter of time, and she was right. After the prolonged struggle on both sides, the mighty titan suddenly let go of the ship and started swimming away. Rain took a dive as well, against Lucian's warning not to. She fired the last batch of bolts before the mighty monstrosity gets out of range. They all lodged themselves between and behind its tentacles, but it kept swimming away. She knew it was futile. Her mutations made her too slow to keep up with its immense speed. It ran away," she informed Lucian as she climbed back at the deck. I failed." "Patience, my dear, patience," comforted her Lucian. "Sometimes you just have to let the enemy go." Alright everybody, this was probably my longest intro story so far. I apologize if this lulled you into sleep, but hey, it is what it is. So, with that said, first and foremost, the Patreon shoutouts as I usually do. Mike, Matthew, Ewing, Larry Hocken, BardlyManHardlyTrying, Rogor, SuburbanHell, Frank Fan, Jared Henderson, Kaleron, Albert Kwak, Aidan Harth, Darth Xín, Gary Course, Matthew Collins, Brad Oldham, Breathe, Joel C Alcazar, Zachary Bradley, Rich Milian, Jeremy Hilton, Bradwin, your boy Fox, Brian Moten, Sean, Corey Williams, Chris Pellman, Ozzy Stefano, Clea Decoya, Zeb Maccabi, Nathan James, Spiffey, Primal Bass Boost, Kyle Shikes, Trevor Green, Matthew Barone, Gaston Ramirez, Jordan Smith, Bassett, Tyler, Charles, Heliostorm, Lloyd, and Lord Gazda. Thank you for your continued support, all new and old patrons. With your, continued support, you're giving me more and more reasons to keep doing these videos, so thank you, all of you. And all you other ones who are just watching my videos, or maybe liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing, thank you as well, because everything helps keep up this project alive and afloat and growing. With that said, I would like you to invite you to my Patreon page. It's always there. There's an option to chuck a buck my way. It's not mandatory. I will keep these videos coming. I'm not gonna keep anything behind any paywalls, but I mean, you do have a couple of perks, so if you're interested, consider them as well. With that said, let's just briefly jump into what whole this thing is about. Basically, it's a Bloodhunter build, as you can see from the title. Its particular order of the Bloodhunter is the order of the mutant. Now for some reason I cannot, let me do it this way. So yeah, there we go. So order of the mutant basically combined with Simic hybrid provides a platform, a chassis which is kind of both racially and as a class a prime platform to build some type of mutant. Now you cannot really recreate every possible kind of combination of mutations out there, but there's a fair few things you can do. And obviously Bloodhunters are martial class, so you do benefit from certain feats. Primarily I would be recommending, and the way I built this character is with the good old crossbow expert and sharpshooter combination of feats. Crossbow expert providing you that third bonus action attack, as well as being able to ignore melee disadvantage and the loading quality of crossbows. And then obviously the sharpshooter giving you the additional damage and increasing the range of all of your weapons, effectively ignoring cover, so having a little bit more precision as well. If you obviously with the -5 to hit, it is a penalty to the accuracy, but it increases the damage. You know the deal with these two cantrips if you've been around D&D 5e for any amount of time. In terms of these kind of like mutagens, a couple of formulas which are kind of necessary for, or at least that I would recommend the best for you, are mobility, reconstruction, celerity, and precision. Mobility gives you immunity to grappled, restrained, and paralyzed conditions. Yes, it's that crazy. So pretty much like when you take this, you can't get grappled, restrained, and later on paralyzed. Reconstruction gives you kind of like a healing factor. The higher your Bloodhunter level, the more self-healing you have. And let me tell you from experience, playing a level 10 Bloodhunter mutant order, this is very, very juicy. Celerity increases your dexterity at the expense of your wisdom, and precision increases your crit range from just being net 20 to being 19 and 20 at the expense of your healing. So in a way, all of these mutations have side effects, have drawbacks, and that's kind of like the theme of the subclass. Each and everyone has these side effects, but when you combine them and when some of these cancel the other ones, it kind of works itself very, very nicely. You have the strange metabolism feature, which if you're not familiar with this class, which I believe many of you might not be familiar with, basically allows you to even ignore one of the mutagens using your bonus action. And finally, at level 18 you get Exalted Mutation, which pretty much allows you to have four of these mutagens running at the same time. One of them being a permanent mutation, and the other three pretty much being like, okay, you can choose which mutagens you wanna use for the occasion. So all of this pretty much, with all of these feats and mutagens and the features, you end up with a character with a very loaded action economy, so you have several things to do with particularly your bonus actions. You also have your reactionary stuff, which is provided by your Blood Maledicts. And then obviously you are a ranged weapon specialist with these feats, which all in all kind of ends up in a hybrid damage per round support character. Primarily through these Blood Maledicts, which is a basic Bloodhunter feature, which I'm not gonna go too deep into. If you wanna hear me talk a little bit more detail about those, watch this video until the very end, I guess. So there's these like blood curses, which are available for all Bloodhunters, and some of them are really, really good for like team play, as they can help not just you but your teammates as well. You can, in that regard, combining all of these mutagens and Blood Maledicts and feats and stuff like that, you can actually take very good care of yourself at higher. Even though this is not the most damaging build, Bloodhunters are martials, but in terms of damage output, they are kind of weak. You, as a mutant Bloodhunter, have quite quite a bit of tools at your disposal to maybe not deal as much damage, but first and foremost protect yourself from danger, take care of yourself, and then maybe even help your allies in a way. So instead of just being, yes, I use my weapon 2 or 3 times per round, I can actually be like a little bit of a more team play oriented character. All in all, this makes this character, this particular class, because this is a single class build, single class character, primed for tier 2 and lower tier 3 games. Unfortunately, casters always take over marshals in tier 4. There's just no denying that. Any full caster does all sorts of miracles compared to marshals who pretty much just like swing their weapons and shoot their bows. So yeah, but on the other hand, most campaigns are not played above tier 3 anyway, and most characters end up somewhere in tier 2 and tier 3. So if your DM allows the use of third-party classes, such as Bloodhunter, which is, well, if you don't know, it's one of those classes which Matthew Mercer, the DM of Critical Role, the most popular D&D show in the world, made. I pretty much like this class. I will admit that similar sort of to Ranger, which I just recently reviewed. You can go watch it on the channel. It's a video before this one. It's kind of weak in the later stages of the game, but due to the fact it's kind of cool, specifically the Mutant Bloodhunter order, I think it's gonna be ultimately fun to play, and you're not gonna feel useless and outshined, particularly due to the one mutation, one mutagen, that's mobility. Being able to be immune to grappled, restrained, at some point even paralyzed condition is literally crazy. So yeah, basically, let me just find that for you so that you can actually know what I'm talking about. There we go. So that's that. Mobility, so immunity to grappled, restraint. Let me tell you from experience, this is crazy. Like being immune to these two conditions makes you so much better off against a lot of monsters. And also paralyzed condition is very nicely to deal with. And all in all, that's about it, guys. This has come like a shorter overview of the build. I'm not gonna go too deep into it. If you want to continue watching the video, I'm probably gonna keep talking for another hour about all of these things, maybe even more, because you know me, all of my videos last a whole eternity. But if you liked my idea behind this character, combining the specific class here, which is Simic hybrid, which already has sort of like mutations of its own, and then combining it with the Bloodhunter mutant, and then like having the ultimate mutant character, this is it, you know. It's kind of like a heavy theme, but at the same time I did try to do my best to optimize it to the best of my own knowledge and abilities. So this is what I got for you. And if you're kind of tired of always playing the most optimized characters and want to kind of like go a little bit more for the theme, but at the same time not be completely useless, and again, if the DM allows third-party materials, which, judging again by the poll which I recently posted on my YouTube community page, a lot of you actually do use third-party. Well, 16% of you at least. So from 200 people, that's at least what, 30-40 people, right? That's a decent amount of people. So yeah, I guess if you're one of those lucky ones, and if the DM allows, have fun. Let me know how it goes. And yeah, basically with that said, again, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button. You know the drill, you know how it goes on YouTube. I will again invite you to my Patreon page. This particular file and all of the other files which I use in my videos will be released on my Patreon for the people who support me, so that they can download it. It's not mandatory. Everything in this file I will be talking in this video, but if you are, I don't know, if you just want a future reference, the option is always there, and you're always welcome to chuck a buck my way. So yeah, basically that's it. With that said, let me then start diving a little bit more in detail on each and every one of these points. First and foremost, we have the Simic hybrid. In terms of point buy, I would go like this and leave the 15 in wisdom because, well, there are a couple of things that will happen at later point in game. Particularly taking one feat first and foremost, observant feat, and then obviously some mutations as well are gonna affect your wisdom. So based on the fact that a lot of your other features work off wisdom as well, it is kind of best to have it a little bit higher than just like 14. So that's the way I would make. Pretty much dump intelligence and charisma. You could dump strength. I don't think you will go wrong with it, and maybe increase your intelligence if you want to do it that way. Honestly, I value for some. Okay, so this might be a little bit controversial, but for martial characters, I value strength more than mental scores, and also for the fact that you will be taking, at least I recommend taking athletics proficiency, which goes off of strength. So yeah, why would you dump strength? That's it for the point buy. In terms of the background, I would say, I mean, look, I always say you can take whatever background you want, but we always kind of go for perception here, if we are absolutely to be honest, because it's one of those skills which is most often used in a large majority of games and campaigns. So there's only a fair few official backgrounds which give you perception, and I would say Far Traveler makes sense. Faction Agent, you can go that way as well. I mean, it's very easy to incorporate in most worlds, and again, you can also choose perception that way. Maybe you can take a pirate if you're in a pirate campaign, or shipwright, whatever you want. Far Traveler is one of those. This is kind of like most universal, and also one of the additional themes is the feature that you get all eyes on you. Everything you kind of do is foreign, weird, and based on the fact that you're a mutant, you would kind of assume that people look at you weirdly wherever you go, wherever you show yourself. So yeah, in a way, this is kind of like, this background makes the most thematic sense if you are yeah, if you care about those things. I do care about those things, but you might not be one of those people. That's a fair point. I just let the thoughts out there, and you are free to take it or leave it. Now, due to the fact I actually played a character that was very, very similar to this. Pretty much almost word for word was this character, and even the name was the same, so I kind of like copy-pasted everything and then just changed some stuff. I had like this little bit of a background story, which I'm not gonna read out loud because it would take, I don't know, like 5 additional minutes. Maybe not, but who cares. If you are interested, I'm kind of like slowly gonna scroll down, at least try to do so, and then you can read it yourself by pausing the video, and yeah, I guess that's enough. It's kind of interesting. It goes a little bit into the Ravnica setting if you are interested, but you can just you can exchange the name of the Ravnica projects from the Simic Combine with any other project, something like Project X in Wolverine or something, whatever, you know. There are certain themes that you can get inspired with, so it's just more food for thought if you are kind of a little bit lost and clueless and thinking what to do with your backstory and all of that stuff. In terms of the feats, I already kind of covered Crossbow Expert and Sharpshooter. Nothing extraordinary to tell about those feats on top of that, other than, you know, the combination has been tried and tested for many years at this point. The additional bonus action attack you get from Crossbow Expert is synergy with Sharpshooter because, well, you know, you can stack that additional plus 10 damage for a -5 to hit. And if luck ends up on your side, you can dump ridiculous amounts of damage. I would take Crossbow Expert first at level 4 because since we are going with crossbows anyway, you need this feat primarily in order to ignore the loading quality of the crossbows, because if you don't have this feat and have the extra attack feature, which you will get with this character because Bloodhunters get extra attack, you cannot actually use your attack action to attack twice because crossbows, due to their loading quality property, prohibit you from using crossbows from attacking with a crossbow more than once per turn. Well, with this feat you can ignore that limitation. And also there the additional boon is that you can go in melee and do just fine with the ranged attack rolls. And also obviously you can use your bonus action to shoot one more hand crossbow attack. So that's good, obviously. Increases your attacks, increases your damage output just that way. Sharpshooter, again, increases your range. So that's good with the hand crossbow, because hand crossbow only has 30 feet of short range, but it has 120 feet of long range. So yeah, taking the sharpshooter feat as soon as possible at level 8 is primarily good for that. But also, obviously, you ignore the cover. And finally, if you choose to do so, if somebody in a party gives you advantage some way, maybe a cleric casts bless on you or something, you can always opt to decrease your accuracy for the attack and deal more damage. So yeah, tried and tested method of dealing as much damage as possible with most martials out there. A third feat that I would consider taking, which goes back to the point buy which we discussed at the beginning of the video, is Observant. Observant will pretty much allow you to put 16 in your wisdom, increasing your ability modifier from +2 to +3. But also on top of that, it's gonna increase your passive perception and investigation, and from time to time able to, I don't know, look, maybe discern some information if you are playing an intrigue heavy game by being able to read from people's lips. Now this will help ease those penalties, because the penalties to wisdom score, because some mutations will lower your wisdom ability. So this will definitely help you kind of like transcend that problem, particularly with perception score, and obviously to a lesser extent with your saving throws and everything else. So with that said, with all the feats and stuff, let's just try to quickly go over the basic Bloodhunter features. So basically you have your starting stuff, which is somewhere over here. Yeah, there we go. So 1d10 per Bloodhunter level. This is good, because you will need hit points for this character to work optimally. Starting proficiencies, you get light and medium armor plus shields. You get all weapons, alchemist supplies, which is kind of thematically makes probably the most sense for the mutant, to be honest. Strength and wisdom. Now, strength saving throw is not, I mean, it's whatever. It's not that, even if you have to make a strength saving throw, usually you only get knocked prone or something. Wisdom saving throw, however, on the other hand, is a very, very good thing to have, because a lot of martials actually struggle with whenever they get whenever they're fighting enemies who attack their mind and mental abilities, right? So wisdom saving throw is the type of mental saving throw that is most often used in the game. So you just getting it straight off the bat at level 1 from this class is actually a very, very good thing for later higher levels. Also, you get 2 skills. I would go with athletics, because you do kind of you could take acrobatics, I'm not gonna deny, but athletics just in general gets used more often than acrobatics. And if you think about grapple, you are at level 3, you're gonna be immune to grapple due to that mutation, which I mentioned before in the video. So you don't really have to even bump up any of your 2 skills which are important for grapple checks. So for those of you who don't know, when somebody tries to grapple you, you can choose between athletics or acrobatics. For you, you're immune to grapple, so you don't care. In that case, I would definitely go with athletics. Because it's just a skill that's more useful in the game, and also your acrobatics are gonna be naturally higher due to your dexterity score going very, very high with this particular character. Survival, just, you know, you can go with investigate, or I wouldn't go with Arcana, to be honest. But on the other hand, you dumped your intelligence, so unless you want to be more on the investigative side instead of more of a physical side and stuff like that, and survival, that's fine. You can do whatever. It's just my own recommendation is athletics and survival. I think these 2 skills are gonna be the best for you, right? Starting equipment is actually, now this is kind of important, because if you think about it, if you just look over this list, you start with everything you need. You need a hand crossbow check. You need studded leather armor. You're a dex-based long-range character anyway, so you need studded leather. That's a check at level 1. You get additional martial weapon. You can pick up a rapier because rapier is a finesse weapon, so you already increase your dexterity, so why not? And obviously Explorer's Pack is good it's just the most generically good option for most characters. So in a way, like, your equipment is already taken care of right off the bat at level 1, right? Now, granted, if you want to increase your AC a little bit more, at least at the beginning stages of the game, first, I don't know, 15 levels, you can go and buy half plate medium armor, and that's gonna strictly give you more armor class, but I think it's like a 1 or 2 points of difference at the expense of having disadvantage on stealth checks. I don't think that's worth it, because you might actually even want to stealth a little bit with this character. Yeah, that's just my own opinion. It's not really set in stone. That's just kind of like what I think in general terms. With all of that covered, you're kind of like fully ready to go into the Bloodhunter class. At level 1 you get something which is similar to Ranger's favorite enemy feature, Hunter's Bane. There are certain parallels and similarities, primarily in terms of being able to track and recall information about certain creature types. Now, you right off the bat get 3 creature types, but you cannot really choose more of them, and you're kind of like stuck with them, so it's definitely good on lower levels, where your party, including you, don't have many means to track and recall information about creatures of these types, other than relying on your own devices. But, you know, it's kind of nearly useless at higher levels, at least this part is, because other than not being able to be surprised by these creatures if you're tracking them, so I guess that's good. If you're playing a creature-heavy campaign, for example, a campaign full of undead, fiends, or fae, whatever, this might even be good at lower levels. However, it's mostly situational in conventional campaigns, which have a lot of different creature types. However, one thing that will be useful once you hit level 11, to some extent, even though probably some of your party members are gonna have superior means to figure out whether somebody is lying or not, is being able to kind of like hurt yourself a little bit, which isn't the best thing in the world, but at level 11 you don't really care that much, to be honest. But on the other hand, you gain advantage on insight checks. Charisma Intimidation is not that good because we are not going for it with this build. However, I mean, naturally you're kind of like a mutant, so it would make sense in that regard as well to have advantage on Intimidation, even though it's a -1 charisma, right? So all in all, primarily this is gonna be useful for wisdom insight checks, right? So trying to figure out whether somebody is lying, you roll with advantage, right? That's always good. The primary low-level feature, which is always gonna matter, even though it doesn't scale so well at higher levels, is Crimson Rite. In essence, you always want to have this active, even if it hurts you, because it's just like the trade-off is worth it, in my opinion. 1 extra die worth of damage stacks up really quickly on lower levels, and due to the fact this is a hand crossbow oriented build with bonus action hand crossbow attack, you only need this active on 1 weapon. So if you read into this, you will see that it says kind of like you can choose to have multiple weapons. But for you, it's not gonna be necessary, and multiple weapons is kind of bad anyway, because you have to hurt yourself twice, so it's kind of like a worse option right off the bat. So it effectively, you know, it effectively lowers your hit points by just 1 point per character level. If you think about it, you know, you hurt yourself for the amount of levels you have in character, so pretty much it's 1 hit point per level, right? In terms of which rights to choose, you have to choose one of the primal rights. Those are rights, so that would be Flame, Frozen, and Storm. So it can only be for a while it can only be the Fire, Cold, and what is the other one? That's Lightning, right? So only 3 of these Cold, Fire, and Lightning can be chosen. And at some point you will also be able, at level 14, you will be able to learn one Esoteric Rite. So it can be Necro, it can be Psychic, or something else. Or Thunder. Yeah, I would pretty probably much go with Thunder or Psychic, because Necrotic is a little, in my experience, resistance immunity to necrotic damage comes up a bit more often than Thunder or Psychic, but again, that might be dependent on the campaign. If you're playing some kind of, if you're fighting against, I don't know, monsters with Thunder resistance, you would obviously want to take something else. And in that regard, that's about it. Now, similar to most monks and rangers, your total damage per round is actually gonna be good in the first 3, 4, 5, and even couple levels after that. But it kind of flatlines after that. So monks get their 4th attack at level 5 basically. You get your 3rd attack at level 5 as well. Rangers also get their 2nd or 3rd attack at level 5. And then in that regard, they don't really have that many more things to do. Well, Ranger does have some higher level spells, but that's a topic for another video. You yourself, being a martial-oriented class, don't really... You kind of flatline in terms of damage, to some extent, right? Obviously, feats will help, but this is not gonna be the most damaging type. However, at lower levels, this is definitely gonna stack up really, really fast. And also, the amount of damage you deal is based on the Crimson Rite damage die, which increases as you keep leveling up. So it starts as 1d4, becomes 1d6 at 5, 1d8 at 11, and finally ends at 1d10 at 17. I don't think the game would break, or this character would be overpowered if you ask the DM to let you start with the 1d6 and then end up with the 1d12. It's on average just one more damage anyway, and but it decreases the odds of landing those wretched ones on the damage. So in that regard, I think it's better, right? I don't think it will make this class overpowered at all, because again, in my opinion, Bloodhunters are a little bit weak in later stages of the game compared to other martials. So yeah. At level 2 you get your martial feature fighting style. You only have 4 of them to choose from, but obviously you want to take archery because this is a ranged weapon build, so +2 bonus to attack rolls is the only... I think it's the only sensible option, right? So why would you bother with any of these other things, right? At level 2 you get something which is another signature feature that Bloodhunters get. It's called Blood Maledict. These kind of like blood curses. They are integral. Why is it so hard to pronounce this? Integral, whatever. You can read the word on the screen. Part of every Bloodhunter's arsenal. You don't get a lot of uses of this feature, which is... This might be one of, maybe even the main reason why Bloodhunters in general feel weak compared to most other official classes. I don't think tying the number of uses to your wisdom modifier and keeping it maybe even a short rest, and keeping it it is a short rest mechanic, but at level 2 you can only use it once per short rest. At level 6 you can use it twice, level 11 3, and level 17 4. I don't think giving Bloodhunter more uses of this feature would make it overpowered. That's just my opinion, you know. But then again, at low levels it might feel a little bit more powerful than maybe it should be. I don't know, like, it's just, in my opinion, playing a Bloodhunter from level 3 to level 10, Blood Maledict's kind of like, I always wished, God, if only I could have one more use of this feature, you know, this class would be so much better. But it is what it is, you know, it's what we have, so here's basically how I would approach this feature, right? I would go with the Blood Curse of the Eyeless first, because, especially at lower levels, is the most universally useful one. Where almost all the attacks are weapon attacks at lower levels, and even at higher levels, it's, I just personally, I've had great success using this particular Blood Curse. against all sorts of creatures. And you will always have it in your arsenal as a defensive countermeasure when you get attacked. So decreasing the enemy's odds of hitting you is I'm highlighting the wrong one, so that's the one. Is always a good thing to have, right? If you have nothing else to do with your reaction, at least you can do this. And obviously, you can amplify it. Now, I did skip the amplifying part. The amplifying part pretty much means you have to hurt yourself, right? So this is kind of like your emo class, what I always joke about. But amplifying your blood curse pretty much means that you learn, you kind of like roll one of those crimson damage dice, right? So, based on your level, you roll, for example, 1d4 or 1d6, and then that's the number of them, that's the amount of damage you take. But in exchange for taking that damage, you can amplify. All of these curses have the amplified option, which is a better option. Arguably, some of them are kind of meh for taking damage, right? However, in terms of eyeless, if you are fighting a creature which is swinging 2 or 3 times, this is definitely a very, very useful thing to have in exchange for just, I don't know, 2, 3, even like 6 damage, you know. It's better to take maybe 6 damage than, you know, and then not get hit at all, instead of taking, you know, whatever, 10, 15, 20 damage per attack from the creature attacking you. So, that's just my opinion, you know. I personally use this, and I used it to, it's very good. Mutual Suffering is arguably probably even better. However, the thing that makes it somewhat of waste is the fact that it's situational, right? It's relative to the damage of the attack that you get hit with. If the creature has multi-attack, those attacks will deal less damage. So you only being able to deal one of those, the damage of one of those attacks back is kind of whatever, you know. You still take more damage than the creature deals to you. However, if you're fighting some big monster that hits you only once, deals a crap ton of damage with that one attack, and that monster decides to attack you, dealing half or maybe even all of that damage that you take back to the creature can quickly actually turn a losing battle into a guaranteed win. Now, this is purely theory because I know a lot of monsters and some of them actually hit very, very hard. So I'm just thinking if one of those monsters fights the Bloodhunter with this curse and the Bloodhunter decides to use this curse, that monster is in for a lot of pain, you know. But, you know, at other times you might be fighting monsters who have like a lot of hit points but only deal like 15-20 damage per attack. So, yeah, the power of this feature is kind of situational, but it's when you're fighting a monster and it's kind of like do or die situation, this is probably one of the best uses of your bonus actions, period. Especially when you get into the single digit hit points territory and the enemy deals like 50 damage to you. So you still get dropped to 0, but you dealt that enemy 50 damage back. That must feel amazing. Unfortunately, I never was able to use this to full extent, so it is what it is, you know. Sometimes you fight something that hits hard but hits slow, or, you know, hits fast but doesn't hit so hard. In either way, yeah, that's it. Blood Curse of the Binding. Now, this is the thing that, again, is kind of situational, but it's very useful when dealing with elusive creatures with lots of flying, swimming, climbing speed. Or even just in general, if you're fighting creatures with like heaps of movement speed who are using some ranged attacks or AoE things against you, this is gonna be a lifesaver. It definitely pays to have this in your arsenal. I've used it once in a dungeon against some type of NPC monk with stupid movement speed. He had like 100 movement speed or some shit like that. And he was harassing the party the whole time. And I managed to use this curse on the guy once, because he was actually in my line of sight, and it was actually crucial in bringing that motherfucker down. Without this thing in my arsenal, I think we would have all died. That bro was just completely annihilating the party. Blood Curse of Defending right now. Okay, look, it's depends on what the DM throws at you, right? If the DM throws spellcasting enemies who drop yeah, so that's not, that's, yeah, all right, so yeah, there we go. Defending right. If the enemy drops spellcasting monsters who chuck fireballs and other spells that force you to make dex saves, not just you, but even if you amplify, you can you can help your party members. It is a tad too specific and situational. However, sooner or later the DM is gonna start throwing stuff at you. So this curse, even though being kind of like a dead weight most of the time, will definitely help you mitigate ridiculous amounts of damage coming your way. Especially if you have, for example, a paladin in a party who provides additional save bonuses with its aura of protection. And then on top of that, that paladin or maybe even a cleric casts Bless on you and the other party members. And then you're all huddled around each other. So you have like +3, 4 from you, +3 from the 3, 4 from paladin, and then plus 1d4. Yeah, it's crazy. This can be ridiculous. Like stacking these things on top of each other can, yeah, like party synergy. Sometimes you really have to think about it. You know, which class and which features I'm gonna choose based on the fact that what my other party members are playing. That's a legitimate concern, I think, in my opinion at least. Now, Spell Sunder works in a similar way that Eyeless works. It gives disadvantage. However, its amplified thing is probably it's bonkers. The only thing that it's kind of bad about it is that more often than not you're gonna be targeted with weapon attacks, not spell attacks. However, especially if you're fighting a bunch of humanoids and I don't know, higher challenge rating monsters that have spell attacks, which are definitely a thing at higher levels, this feature will be more and more useful to you, because for the price of like 1d6, 1d8, 1d10 damage, you can completely cancel the attack roll, the spells, you know, the spell and the attack roll, the spell attack roll against you. So I think this is crazy. Yeah, Blood Curse of Purgation. I probably need to Google that because I'm butchering the pronunciation. Is a good pick at any level, to be honest, even though it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna end these conditions on your party members. At least you give them additional chance at doing so. And obviously it would kind of make even more thematic sense. You will see why soon, based on the fact that, well, you're a mutant and some of your formulas and even features are gonna be kind of relevant thematically to this particular curse. So even though this curse is on its own, I think it's good. I mean, it would probably even make more thematic sense for this character on its own. In terms of mutagen formulas, finally we get to level 3. Now it's kind of wonky on D&D Beyond, which is why I don't like it. I have to do this thing all over, just like scrolling back and forth. This is annoying me. But anyway, yeah, mutagen formulas, basically this is the bread and butter of this subclass and character as a whole. In essence, you start with 3 mutagen formulas, you immediately learn them at level 3, and then you gain one new one at level 7, 11, 15, and 18. Also, you have the option to replace one of the formulas that you know with another one if you don't like the one that you have. I'm not going to be using this sentence. I'm fairly certain that the stuff that I'm going to recommend is going to be the best combination of mutagens for this particular class, and in general for mutant, right? There's only a fair few options to choose from, and based on the fact that even before I said all of these mutagens have side effects, some of those side effects are actually really, really horrible, so I don't think you should ever go for those things other than maybe just like being completely masochistic and playing at a heavy disadvantage. All of them offer a benefit and a drawback, obviously, and yeah, that's pretty much, I'm just reiterating here what I just said. So mutagen craft is the feature which explains how and when you get to use these mutagen formulas. You start out by being able to craft one mutagen during the short rest, and then they only provide benefits to you. They can hurt other creatures, but I don't think you would ever want to even do that, because it's kind of whatever, especially with the mutagens that you're gonna be crafting, because you are pretty much, with this character, you're gonna be going for the mutagens that have the least severe side effects. At level 7 you get to craft 2 of them, at level 15 you get to craft 3. A lot of mutagens become more potent the higher the level of Mutant Bloodhunter you are. This is calculated using your mutation score, which is a number of the number you get by, well, you can see, right? I don't have to read all of this. So basically, mutation score starts at 1. That's weird. Why did I type a word there? Becomes 2, obviously, at some point. Level 5 is to 8, based on how it's calculated. 3, 4, and 5, based on your level, caps out at 5. This is important to keep in mind when deciding which mutagens to craft over a short rest, because some of those mutagens actually have side effects which go off of your mutation score. So the higher the level of the Blood Hunter you are, the worse the side effect is. So you have to be really careful. At level, obviously, advanced mutagen and all of that stuff gives you more use. You can craft more of those. At level 11 you get something which is... level 11 for this character is a major power boost. Primarily for this feature alone, because for just the price of 1 bonus action you can choose to ignore the side effects of a mutagen affecting you for 1 full minute. This is again another short rest feature, which is even better. This is actually a major power boost. This will definitely allow you to... If you want to steer away a little bit from what I have prepared here, you can even afford to do it if you are a level 11 Mutant Bloodhunter. But even if you're sticking entirely to what I have in this kind of like video and the file, this feature is still gonna be really good. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Short rest, ignore the side effect. That's crazy. At level 15 you get robust physiology. As I said a little bit before, you get immunity to poison, condition and damage. Which is why, going back to that blood curse, is why I would pretty much say that thematically, if you don't take the what is it, the blood curse of purgation, whatever it's pronounced, yeah, it's kind of like you're kind of not playing entirely to the theme of this particular character, subclass, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, basically that's it for that. And finally at level 18 you get Exalted Mutation. In essence, you can have 4 concurrent mutagens active once you hit level 18. You do have to contend with the side effects of one of them, because as you can see from the description, that mutagen, it's just permanent. You suffer the good and bad effects at all times. You cannot ignore them. However, that's not that bad at all once you pick the one that has the least serious side effect, and I'm gonna talk about that one really soon. With all of this in mind and on paper, here's how I would actually approach doing this, right? At level 3 of this character I would learn Mobility, which is the one that I referenced the most so far. Celerity, which is gonna be good at higher levels, and Rapidity. Rapidity is the one which you might be opting for in more like exploratory, more like you don't want to be entirely damage oriented, offensively oriented. This is like the mobility this mutation offers you is crazy. Especially because you get higher level features and all of that, which further increase your mobility. It's, yeah, you can be really fast. You can be as fast as monks at some cases. So yeah, that's really good. So yeah, basically that's it. Those 3 definitely learn them, because you will be primarily using mobility, because this is hands down the best formula of all of them in my opinion, and I've played with a fair amount of people and they said this might even be a little bit overpowered. I'm not really that sure, to be honest, because other than this, you, as a Blood Hunter, you don't get very many other things. Your damage is kind of lower than fighters and paladins, even rangers at higher levels. Your defensive features, other than this one and a couple other ones, are not here and there. Couple blood curses are good, but yeah, whatever. The only penalty is that your initiative is lower, right? So you gain penalty to initiative equal to 2 times your mutation score. That's not bad at all, you know. So at some point you have a -10 to initiative. You might be thinking, oh, I'm always playing last. Yeah, in a way you are, but I mean, initiative even if you have 20 dexterity, it's only +5 modifier to initiative. If you roll 1 on the initiative, that's still 6, right? And then a character who has a -1 to initiative rolls a 20, and he has 19, right? So it goes back to one of my the stuff that I usually repeat. D&D, yeah, you can use statistics and all of that other stuff, but especially when it comes to initiative, you roll initiative at most 5 times during the session. If you manage to have 5 combats in the same session, that's gonna, I don't know, like, that's probably gonna last, I don't know, 10 hours or something. So most sessions end up being like 1 to 3 combats per session. So you're rolling initiative 1 to 3 times per session. That's 3 d20 rolls, maybe 6 if you have advantage. That's a very, very low sample. So having a negative modifier to initiative or a positive modifier to initiative more often than not doesn't mean crap, because you primarily depend on the number that appears on the dice, on the d20, instead of the, you know, number that you can artificially inflate through your modifiers. Yes, I know, if you go back to my channel, I made a build entirely about bumping your initiative modifier as high as possible, but in practice, most characters don't have higher than +5 initiative or lower than -1. Now, granted, you will be a little bit in the negative zone more than any other character, but that's not gonna affect you at all. So, yeah, in my opinion, initiative is largely irrelevant, right? So wherever you land in the initiative order only means that you're gonna be having to wait a little bit longer for your first turn to come up, right? And that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's why I think this is legitimately the most bonkers mutation. Immunity to grappled, restrained, that's even more bonkers. And then on top of that, once you hit level 11, not only do you get to ignore the side effects of one of your mutagens, on top of that you become immune to paralyzed. Whoa, that's just pure crazy. At level 7 I would learn reconstruction, because after that, after this mobility, reconstruction is just hands down the most universally best one, you know, the one that you're gonna be relying on the most. It will slow you down, I'm not gonna deny that, but right off the bat at level 7, you heal 4 hit points at the start of your turn in combat if you're conscious and above 0 hit points. Only 2 levels above that, at level 9, your mutation score becomes 3, so 3 times 2 is 6. It doesn't seem like much healing, but it stacks so quickly when you start getting damaged. And yeah, I mean, I do remember one combat specifically, I healed 36 of my own hit points just based on this feature alone. It was at that point, it was basically like probably even more than half of my total hit points. So in a way a little bit situational, but whenever you get damaged in combat one way or another, at least you're probably gonna be fighting for like 2 or 3 rounds minimum. And this is gonna at least heal 6, 8, 10 hit points, depending on your level and other mutations. So yeah, definitely this would be the mutation that I would be running with. You don't have to have this active at all times, but you know, just have it ready for use once shit hits the fan, meaning that, you know, once you roll initiative, combat starts out, as soon as your bonus action comes up, you know, hit it up. You will lose that first turn of healing, but I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, you know. So yeah, that's just my opinion. And even if you run with reconstruction at all times, meaning that your speed is gonna be 10 feet slower, that really, I mean, even though it kind of contradicts what I usually talk about mobility, meaning that the more movement speed you have, the better you're off. In this particular case, due to the fact this offers so much passive healing, it's kind of compensates for that. So this is a serious side effect, but in my opinion, this character being immune to grappled and restrained and paralyzed at some point is gonna be just completely nuts when you combine all of these mutations. Level 11, I would learn Ether. You're not gonna be running with Ether all the time, but if absolutely necessary, you can take a short rest, craft this mutagen, and you can give yourself flying speed, which is gonna last as long as you know, whatever, you give yourself some other mutagens. So yeah, I mean, there's no duration on this, you just give yourself 20 feet of flying, and this might go a long way towards preserving resources, either magic items or slots or whatever, and you need to fly, right? Because yeah, this character definitely can do that. The side effect is a little bit on the more severe side, but on the other hand, hey, you gain a flying speed for kind of like for free in a way, right? So yeah, that's pretty much my my recommendation. I would still probably go, not probably, I would definitely go with mobility and reconstruction as my primary setup of these mutagens. Remember, you need to wait to level 15 to craft 3 mutagens. Speaking about level 15, I would finally go with precision, because celerity is, well, first and foremost, you learn precision, but you already learn celerity right off the bat. At level 15, celerity's side effects, let me go to celerity, and so that you know what I'm talking about. So here we go. Is actually quite serious, I'm not gonna lie. Your wisdom score is gonna get reduced by 4, but you most likely have observant feet already. At level 12 you pick observant feet, based on how I would do this character. So your passive perception won't suffer that much. It will be -2, so instead of being, I don't know, 18, 19, it's gonna be 16, 17, whatever. You are already proficient in wisdom saving throws anyway, so yeah, sure, it reduces your wisdom saving throw by 2, but you already have your +5 from the proficiency bonus, so you're still kind of okay, you know. The main issue is that some of your blood maledicts, your blood curses, which we talked about before, will strictly be worse off due to the fact that they rely on wisdom score or wisdom modifier to determine their effects. That's just something you will have to deal with if you go with this particular combination of mutagens. Because not only you can craft them, you can also use 3 mutagens in between the short and long rests. On the other hand, with your mutation score of 4, your dexterity immediately shoots from 16 straight to 20. In other words, instead of having +3 from dexterity, you immediately, once you hit level 15, you get +2 from dexterity, so +5 total. So that's +5 from dex, +5 from proficiency bonus. At level 15 your prof bonus is +5. Don't forget the archery fighting style. That's a total of +12 to hit without any magic weapons. So if you stack some +1, +2 or even +3 hand crossbow on top of that, which granted some of you lucky bastards are actually playing in the campaigns where your DMs are giving you cool shit like that, you're looking into maybe, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 to hit at level 15. That's crazy high. That's super crazy high. Don't forget, your AC jumps from 16 to 18 as well. Might not be that important, but hey, you are at least 10% harder to hit, however you want to look at it. With increased dexterity maximum, you can easily finish at 25 dexterity by level 19 as well. Because at level 19 you're gonna be maximizing your dexterity anyway. Your level 19 ability score increase is gonna go towards dexterity. With a whopping +15 bonus to hit, without any magic items at level 19, that's just crazy high. Yeah, most characters end up with like +13, you end up with +15, right? So even if you use that sharpshooter, -5 to hit, that's still +10 to hit. That's very high even for a sharpshooter shot. So yeah, like you can do some stuff with this. Even though this is not the most damaging build, the fact your accuracy is so goddamn high means that you are strictly gonna be hitting more often than missing, and in that regard you're gonna be dealing more damage because at least you're gonna be dealing some damage compared to dealing no damage, right? So that's how it works, right? You can go for the mobility plus reconstruction plus rapidity. If we go back to rapidity, rapidity increases your movement speed. So at level 15, it would increase your movement speed by 20. That would strictly, you know, if you don't care that much accuracy and damage that you would get from celerity and a little bit higher AC, this combination with combination of rapidity and reconstruction and mobility effectively produces only two side effects, right? You have disadvantage on dex ability checks, sure, and your reconstruction, your mobility gives you a negative modifier to your initiative. So your the negative side effect from reconstruction is completely negated. Your speed is decreased by 10, but rapidity increases it by 20. So you're still it's still a net gain. You still have 40 feet of movement speed. So if you don't care that much accuracy, damage and stuff like that, you need more movement speed while retaining the ability to be immune to paralyzed, grappled and restrained, and self-healing without reducing your movement speed. Definitely opt to take rapidity. Level 18, finally you get your exalted mutation, and with your exalted mutation we go back to mobility. I would say that this is the best mutation to take at all times, meaning that once you hit level 18, your mobility mutation will at all times give you a penalty to initiative equal to 2 times your mutation score. However, like that's, again, we already established that having a -3 to or -5 to your initiative is not half as bad. Sure, you're gonna be on average a little bit lower on the initiative than most people, but let's say you roll 20 on the D20, you're still at 15 initiative. That's decently high, right? So yeah, that's not nearly as bad as some of these other side effects, right? Do remember that your exalted mutation cannot be stopped with your level 11 feature, so that's why, again, I would ultimately go with mobility, because you just don't care about this. You just care about being immune to all of these things while being able to take 3 other mutations, 3 other mutagens. So what obviously you would learn, I would recommend learning Sagacity, if that's pronounced like that. I believe it is. This would kind of this would counteract the side effect of celerity, but obviously with this huge drawback. But let me just go into this one really quickly. So finally at level 18, instead of being kind of like pigeonholed into these 2 options, sort of, you can finally have your mobility with your precision, right? So +10, +15 to hit based on whether you're using sharpshooter. That's from celerity. That's crazy high to hit bonus. AC of 20, because of your, you know, armor class is taking into account your dexterity. With 25 dexterity, that's +7 from dex. 12 from the studded leather, that's 19. And also don't forget that I kind of skipped over that really fast, but Simic Hybrid gives you this this thing at level 5, Carapace, right? So your skin, blah blah, you gain a +1 bonus to AC, so that's additional +1, so 20, like 20 round number, right? Crit range 19 and 20, that's from precision. There we go. And then 3 attacks per turn, obviously crossbow expert. Immunity to grapple, restrained, paralyzed and poisoned damage, and immunity and condition based on your level 15. Well, level, what is it? Level, I think it's level 15, right? Yeah, 15 robust physiology. Yeah, 5 points of passive healing. Now, look, precision does half all of your healing. This might be a little bit of a, you know, you might get stuck on wording, because all healing you receive is halved, but reconstruction says that you regenerate. So does it mean that the healing you get from reconstruction is that the healing you receive, or the healing you I don't know. Just to be on the safe side, let's assume that these side effects lowers the benefit of reconstruction, and instead of regenerating 10 hit points, you regenerate 5. That's still okay, you know. 5 hit points of passive healing at the start of turn is still relevant, even at high levels. Some Blood Maledicts are worse off due to the lower wisdom based on celerity, right? But you do have, you know, you do have the build, the combination of mutations that is a pure damage per round oriented kind of like combination, and most likely the best overall combination of mutagens. You can run with different ones, you have options at your disposal. I just think that this might be the best one, and you're gonna see why really soon. Just a couple more levels, right? You can go with reconstruction, celerity, and sagacity. Now, that is gonna cause a very severe side effect of lowering your AC, right? Your armor class is reduced by the amount equal to your mutation score. So your AC, instead of being 20, is 15. That's a serious decrease in AC. AC is one of those things, you know, you don't want to have low AC. However, you do have increased passive healing because you're not running with precision. And also sagacity cancels out your celerity's drawback. It pretty much cancels itself out. So the only thing that you have to sacrifice is your AC. But with a higher wisdom, this is gonna benefit your Blood Maledicts, right? So in a way, choosing which mutagens to run is gonna depend a little bit more on your DM campaign and types of creatures you're dealing with, instead of just there being one particularly like best combination. Even though I would say myself this is probably the best one. At level 20, you get something which is kind of like a high risk, high reward. Now, I don't know why it's not present here, but basically, let me just quickly go into that, because I'm probably gonna... yeah, let me go into that later in the video, yeah. So, at level 4, you get your first ability score increase, right? Let me just delete this, that's gonna be confusing later on if you get the file. So, yeah, basically, at level 4, we have to scroll back to basic features. Oh my god. Alright, so where is it? At level 4, yeah. You get your 4, 8, 12, 16 and 19 ability score increases. At level 5, you get your standard extra attack. At level 9, you get the feature which usefulness depends a lot, again, on the campaign and particularly the DM. I guess it's purposefully vaguely described for that reason alone. But it does make sense that a class, a Bloodhunter, using evil means in order to deal with evil creatures and other evils in the world, does gain some way to sense the presence of evil in some objects in some esoteric, hard to understand way. And the way I see it most often used in practice is, for example, if you are dealing with cursed magic items and other cursed objects, where identify spell and other similar spells fall short, meaning that even if you cast a spell you still don't know whether the item is cursed or not, this feature might at least hint at the presence of something more sinister in the magic item or some other object important for the party, story or world in general, right? At level 9 you get your Dark Velocity. This feature is mechanically much clearer and provides a relevant buff for this particular character. One particular mutation will reduce your move speed. That's reconstruction, right? So as long as you can cling to a shadow or dark corner, you can mostly ignore that drawback. Increased dark vision range is good as well, and all attacks of opportunity at disadvantage will allow you to be a little bit more at ease when throwing caution out of the window. You know, if you just run away from somebody without disengaging, you will provoke opportunity attacks, but at least they are made with a disadvantage once you hit level 10. So, you know, it's a kind of situational thing, but it's a thing that you get. You don't have to invest anything other than 10 levels in this class. Don't forget you have that, because it's kind of like seldomly used, seldom occurrence in game that opportunity attacks happen that way, so be mindful of that fact. Hardened Soul at level 14, immunity to frightened condition and advantage against charm effects is more of a thematic feature. It's kind of like a ribbon feature. A lot of higher challenge rating monsters do have, for example, frightening presence trait or other ways to spook your character, but sadly this feature is actually hardly worth grinding 14 levels for. The feature alone, right? If you're dealing with enemies, who have a lot of these, you know, stuff, frightened and charm effects, this is, you know, and this class is kind of meant to deal with Fey, Fiends and Undead, and they do have a lot of those effects. This feature will definitely come in handy in those situations, but if all of you are fighting some giants and monstrosities, it's kind of situational in that regard. At level 20, this is the feature which I kind of wanted to mention before, but now we finally get to it. Upon becoming a level 20 character, you purposefully getting to low hit points might be something that you might even want to pull off. It's rarely a good idea. However, this particular subclass will be able to handle it a bit better than any other Bloodhunter would be able to. Primarily thanks to reconstruction, mobility, and to some extent precision as well. You can even afford to get in the front line, get pummeled a bit, and then unload everything you have into the enemy. So basically, you get below 1/4 of your hit points, right? 1/4, 1/4, whatever. All of your Crimson Right damage dice are maximized, so you do have 3 attacks, right? All of those 3 attacks have additional 1d10 worth of damage, so you don't even have to roll a 1d10, you just immediately you add 10 damage. So that is actually quite relevant. And also, don't forget that the what's it called, precision mutagen, right? Is increasing your critical range from not just being 20 but also 19 to 20. So precision mutagen, precision mutation also synergizes with this part, resulting in even more uses of Blood Maledict feature. So kind of like, if you think about it, which blood curse is a good choice? Blood curse of mutual suffering definitely comes to mind, because you know, you have a higher chance of landing a crit, so you just might use your bonus action to inflict this curse and deal even more damage. So, yeah, even though this is far from the highest damage per round character, damage per round build, class, or whatever, with all of this in mind, it can still inflict some good damage, so let's actually do some crunch. At level 7, let's say your active mutagens are mobility, only one, giving immunity to grappled, restrained, and, well, only two of those conditions, which at level 7 is amazing, because from my experience, a lot of enemies, a lot of monsters have effects that grapple and restrain you, and you just flat out ignore all of that. Round number 1, you use your bonus action to activate reconstruction. Yeah, sure, you're not gonna be able to fire off your bonus action attack, but you're still gonna deal some damage with your action attack. And then on round number 2, and every subsequent round, you're gonna be able to deal around 30 damage using your crossbow expert feat. So that's not the highest damage, but it's stable, right? And you being so defensive with these immunities and self-healing and all of that stuff is actually pretty nice for a martial class, martial character like yours. Let's quickly jump into level 15. You would have, for example, 2 active mutagens, mobility and celerity, which gives you immunity to grappled, restrained, and you already hit level 11, so your mobility mutagen provides immunity to 3rd condition, paralyzed, so you're now even more equipped to deal with all sorts of dangers. Celerity provides +4 to dex, but also -4 to wisdom. Fear not, though, we are calculating damage over here, similar to how what happened in the previous scenario. In the first round you would activate reconstruction, your damage wouldn't be so high, but due to the fact you already have sharpshooter feat, you picked it up at level 8. Your total overall damage, if everything hits, we are just assuming all of those things, right? It's always, you always can roll a natural one. It happens, but let's not go too deep into those percentages, because you know we could be doing math for like additional 2 hours. So you can see that there is a slight increase in damage, pretty much like more than double than level 7. So that's good, right? So that shows some potential for progression, and obviously more damage with all 3 attacks is even better. So yeah, you kind of like double your damage in that regard. And finally at level 20, what I talked about, you being, for example, using that Sanguine Mastery level 20 feature is in a way that can be completely bonkers, right? Exalted Mutation, Mobility, you activate all of your stuff, but your hit points are only 40 out of 164. So this is below 25, right? Even if you're lower than that. So this is like that high risk, high reward scenario that you're playing. This maxes your Crimson Rite damage, right? So sure, you might spend your first round activating that reconstruction, maybe. But if you don't, and everything hits, and one of those attacks crit because you're running with precision, which increases your crit range, so you can kind of expect at least one of these couple of attacks to crit, right? Especially if you have advantage from something. At level 20, it's not hard to get advantage, especially if you have a caster in a party who provides to you in a myriad of possible ways to do it. So if you land just one critical hit, you can, for example, deal around 100 damage every round. Well, a little bit less without the critical hit, but it's still around 80-90 damage. Pretty much like 90. That's a decently high damage even for a level 20 character. Fighters are capable of doing more. Paladins, no question about it, with their smites and all the other stuff. But for just a purely martial class who doesn't have any spellcasting and nothing to augment your damage past your level 1 feature, Crimson Rite, this is actually quite respectable. Like 80 to 100 damage per round at level 20 is a very, very reliable damage per round. And don't forget, your bonus to hit is higher if you run with Celerity. It's +2 compared to all other classes. So even if you run with Sharpshooter, you still have a +10 to hit. So that's actually very, very decent. So all in all, you know, I would say, again, this is not the most damaging character. I kind of keep repeating myself. Oh, this is a mistake. Yeah, it should be -3. Sorry. So there we go. But definitely, I think this would be fun. You know, there are multiple things you can do. You're not just like some fighter out there doing your 4 or 5 maneuvers or whatever. Because, well, technically you are limited in the amount of things you can do as well. But let's say you're not just like dumb barbarian just swinging your stuff and using rage, right? In that regard, you're kind of like, it's more interesting to play this than maybe a barbarian, especially for somebody who's been playing D&D for like a longer amount of time. If you're new to the hobby, if you're new to the game, and your DM allows the use of third-party classes, especially if your DM is the fan of Critical Role, which, you know, Matt Mercer being the DM of that show and Bloodhunter being one of the classes he's kind of like homebrewed. That's his class, he's made it. This is gonna be interesting. I'm not gonna lie, because it might be a little bit more complicated to play for first-time players or players who don't have a lot of experience, but I think overall this is gonna be a very like fun, enjoyable experience to play this character. And obviously, like, if you are a fan of any mutant franchises, like, I don't know, X-Men is the first one that comes to mind, but there's these TV shows and everything, and mutant superheroes, obviously Avengers and all of that other, you know, stuff that's popular in geek culture and all of that other things. This might be a way to like at least play out some of those, you know, fantasies that you might have, right? So all in all, that's about it, guys. I would like to invite you to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button on this video. You know the YouTube drill. Let me know in the comments down below if you ever played Bloodhunter, and if you did, what you think about this particular combination, because, well, this is a little bit of a less explored class, so most of the stuff that I'm talking about here is something that's completely from my own experience. playing this particular character and playing a Bloodhunter in general. So my perception might be a little bit more subjective and skewed instead of being, or at least trying to be a bit more objective. So definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think. And again, I would like to invite you to my Patreon page. Again, I'm prefacing this by saying it's not mandatory, but if you're interested, you can chuck a buck my way, and if not, just liking, sharing, and watching the video is fine. If you're interested in getting your hands on this file, and this file, which I I always prepare it to my patrons, all of that stuff is available on my Patreon page. You're free to download those. As you can see, I upload all of my notes and files on the Patreon, so it's there. With that said, that's it, folks. I'm gonna have a new video done soon, probably in the next 15-20 hours. So the 50 days, 50 videos challenge is still up. I'm way behind still. I'm catching up slowly. We'll see how it goes. I still have until November 11th. So yeah, wish me good luck. With that said, MinMax Munchkin out, and talk to you soon.